reflection, of course, of the different track temperature. Gee, that's the sight, isn't it? Just to see 1.5 ton V8 supercar flicked into the air like that. And then look at the force on the way back down and the pressure. And up again.
And what's been amazing is about some of these images is you noticed it on the front left wheel and tyre there, the amount of tyre distortion and what looks like to be either flex in the rim or somewhere in the front suspension. Just a massive amount of movement in the car when it takes that huge impact across the top of the curve.
Shane van Gisbergen, 2 wins. Pole position at Sandown this year, and there'll be a lot of emotion riding throughout this garage and this car this weekend as Ross and Jimmy Stone look on. End of an era, of course, for Stone Brothers parting ways with Ford and sporting the Mercedes badge, and we know that Shane van Gisbergen has made it clear that this will be his last weekend in V8 supercars for a while at least. And he go out with pole position.
A little bit of trouble then, just downshifting on his warm-up lap into turn 11. So it just looked a little bit clumsy for some reason, but he's typically very good on this sort of circuit. He tends to do very well on these places where there's just a little bit of that X factor, where you just got to grab the car by the scruff. We've seen him very, very strong in low grip conditions.
That was sideways when he first turned the wheel and didn't like the reaction, and it slid through the mid-corner section of turn 5, used every little bit of road out of the bus stop. Now up to turn 8, this is the run down Dawn Fraser Avenue, effectively the main straight of Sydney Olympic Park. And this is a very difficult braking area with a rise and fall through this roller coaster. New surface there, you can see the car moving around in the brakes. It's slightly up on D'Alberto now, 0.05. Uses all the road on the exit, 10. This is quite a tricky little piece of the circuit to finish the lap off. No room here against the gutter and the fence on the right-hand side, and then onto the straight, very narrow exit, and just misses out, 0.13 on D'Alberto. So we thought that D'Alberto's time wasn't that flash, but again, it's very, very hard to tell with the grip level. Look at the amount of road there for van Gisbergen. Just gives the fence a very light rub.
Shows you too just the impact that the bumps and the nature of a street circuit can have, because as soon as he collected those bumps there, it pushed him out towards the wall. The car wasn't sliding that way, but it was sent that way. So James Moffat had a pretty interesting qualifying session. He was out there, he touched the wall, he was in and out of the top 10 throughout the entire session, and he ends up posting the 7th fastest time, 8th fastest time correctional. Let's see if he can collect his first career pole position. Lights are on in the Norton Ford.
We really enjoyed his run at Winton a couple of weeks ago, and we got to talk to and meet his engineer Ian Walburn, who's very experienced, used to work with James's dad Alan many years ago, and just in this back end of the championship season he's really come alive. Had a couple of 5th placings in qualifying in Abu Dhabi and then also again at Winton, and they found some stuff in the car. I spoke to James at length about it. There's only a couple of little things that have really made him a lot more comfortable. Of course, he's on the move from Norton Dick Johnson Racing, and his position will be revealed officially in the early part of the new year for which team will be joining next season.
We saw him have some drama in practice at turn 2, and that was almost one then. He battled against those.
Just manages to stop it. It was wriggling in the rear, had the rear brakes chirping and on the verge of locking. I reckon it cost him time at the bus stop down there at 6 and 7. So he's a 10th outside Tony's time at the moment. It's standing up. 2 corners to run now.
It did cost him. It cost him over a 10th throughout that second sector. Let's see if he can pull it back in the 3rd and final. No, he can't. It drifted out further. So 2 tenths off the mark, James Moffat. Tony D'Alberto's time stands. The smile remains. 7 competitors still to come.
That's the little mistake that we saw at the bus stop. He ran into turn 6 too fast. So they're too wide. So from 6 across to 7, and then way out to the fence on the exit of 7.
Because it was so deep through the turn 6 part of it, the right-hander, it poked him up in and it crimped him through 7, so he had to stay out of the throttle, and then the turn was very tight through 7, so you got to dwell, sit, wait for the car to settle, stay out of the throttle, have another bite at the steering wheel, and all that costs time.
It's a wonderful international CV that Alex Premat brings to this sport this year at Fujitsu Racing, car 33, and Alex is now in his first top 10 shootout in the V8 supercar category. Let's see what he can do. D'Alberto's time, 1:30.33 is the leading time. I reckon he kissed it.
Geez, he was committed on the throttle. He lit the throttle up so hard so early, and he ended up just catching it with the steering. It was always going to bump the fence, and he had 2 big rooster tails of black lines out of the back of the car, wheel spinning. He's 100% committed at the moment. Pretty stressful lap, and up by 3/10 almost. Fantastic job in the first sector.
And the subtext to this is that he's battling a little for his seat for 2013. He doesn't have a confirmed ride with Gary Rogers yet. He's been in the wars a bit. We've been talking up his stocks on different occasions during the year. We've seen some very, very good performances on different occasions, particularly early in practice sessions, low grip, a lot of wheel spin off 8 there. But he's, I think he's done a good job. If he does get a second season, he'll settle into it a lot more. Vastly experienced at Le Mans with Audi. He's done. He was very, very fast in single-seater racing.
And the thing about it, Neil, you and I have said this the whole time, he's almost up half a second. There's Richard Holway looking as the engineer for Alex. He's qualified too far back all the time. The drama is you're back there and you can't get out of the incidents and the problems. This will be a big telling factor today. If he can get up towards the pointy end and goes to the top.
He donated a mirror for the cause on the final turn as well.
Excellent job, 3/10 quicker.
So it takes a big chunk out of Tony D'Alberto's time. So the new time belongs to the Frenchman, Alex Premat. 1:30 flat is the time to beat if you want pole here at the Sydney Telstra 500. Welcome back to the V8 Supercars on 7 and the last event of 2012, our second last race coming up this afternoon. We're at Sydney Olympic Park and halfway through the top 10 shootout. We've got Stevie Johnson out there in car 17. And again, he's one of these guys that has good form on the streets of Hamilton, especially in qualifying, which is where he had his season best earlier this year of 7th. Transfers to the streets of Sydney. So it's a similar playbook.
But it's been a hard year for him. It hasn't been anything like where he wanted to be, and that was his best qualifying. You mentioned back at Hamilton, he's had a couple of top 10 results, so it's not where we've expected to see this guy. And he was in the commentary box just a little earlier, as you know, and felt good about the fact he had an opportunity to do his thing in the top 10. Gee, that bump, you were telling me about it earlier in the weekend, Mark, and the braking area in turn 2 is really pronounced there. In the front of the Jim Beam car didn't look like it handled that nicely. Lap speed looks good so far, though. This is reference to Alex Premat, the previous runner. Oh, a bit of oversteer through 5. Gets it back on track through 6 and 7. Good. Well committed through there. He got away with it. Gee, there was nothing to the right-hand side of the car there. That's good.
It was an ugly moment out of 5, but by the time he got to 60, it was all right.
It's good now. It could have been a lot different earlier.
And he used a lot of curb at 8. He had basically 1/3 of the car to the left of the curbing at 8. He's got it chirping on the rear brakes into 9. It's a good lap so far. 2 green boxes and a tiny margin for Stephen Johnson over Alex Premat at the moment. 3 quarters remaining.
He had to stick it in second gear. He wasn't going to stop then. So there was a lot of engine braking involved in making it into the final right-hander. There's double left to come onto the straight, and every bit of road for Johnson. It goes to the top. Well done, Steve. Great reaction there with Dick Johnson and all the crew.
P1 by 3.5 10.
Fantastic.
Watch this for a moment. He goes right alongside the wall. I'm sure that Alex Premat touched that wall, but there were no marks left behind. And then he arrives coming up to turn 5 with the rear of the car stepping out, but he got it in control. And that concrete canyon that was staring in front of him at the exit of turn 5 through 6 and 7 must have seemed huge.
Would have looked narrow, man. It would have looked very narrow when it was sideways like that.
His eyes would have been huge. Dinner plates. So Michael Caruso, the second of the Fujitsu entries. His teammate Alex Premat currently sits in position 2.
He's always been super strong on the streets of Sydney Olympic Park, and in fact, his best qualifying so far this year is equally shared between a run at Eastern Creek at Sydney Motorsport Park and also on the Gold Coast, so street form's good.
And it's all good to get a start on this lap, isn't it? Just by virtue of the way that turn 13 is.
I don't think he made the start that good. Your comment was, I think, quite appropriate. He didn't look like he made the exit very neat, which cost him some time down Australia Avenue, which is the main straight into turn 1. This is this bumpy section that Neil referred to before.
It's just as you put the big pressure into the brake pedal, there's an initial touch of the brake pedal and they feed a lot of pressure on it. You can see the front of the car dip. Some of them have been reacting poorly when we watched them in practice yesterday.
Nothing in it. 0.09 at the first sector.
Cars have been riding these curbs very nicely. Alex Premat before, and now Michael through the bus stop. The way they ride over the inside curb at 6 and the second curb at 7, then over that inside curb there at 8, has made a big difference to the drivability, the way the car is slightly forgiving on this style of track, and that's why they've been very good over the years here.
Looked like he was having a fair adjustment of an anti-roll bar on the run into turn 9 there as well. You can see his left hand darting across to the left side. So fourth has been his best performance so far this year in qualifying Sydney Motorsport Park, Eastern Creek, and also on the Gold Coast. He's a couple of tenths down on this lap, but on these numbers, that's going to put him somewhere in the top 3 or 4 cars. So either equal to or perhaps slightly better than what he's achieved so far this year, P3. So not a bad job for Michael Caruso, 30.1, and there's his boss, Gary Rogers.
He'd be pretty happy, both cars in the top 10. And like we say, Alex Premat further up the list. I think we've got Michael Caruso on the line. Matty White here, mate, can you hear us?
Yeah, boys. Yeah, that was a bit taily out there, so no, look, it's good. It's good to be in the shootout. Very good to have 2 cars, 2 Fujitsu cars in the shootout.
Be pretty comfortable in that cabin right now, wouldn't it? Nice and cool. Microphone's melted. Thanks, Robert.
I don't think it was that comfortable, Matty. You can even hear from his breathing. That was a pretty bold lap. So he's ended up 1/10 of a second slower than his teammate, Alex Premat. As Michael said, to have 2 cars in the top 10 is very good. And now young Tim Slade about to embark on a very important lap. These 1-lap shootout formats are very, very hard to get yourself organised for, and this braking area for turn 1 is one of the most difficult. You've got to be deep down here.
Sorry, mate, 27 years of age, 3 fourth positions in terms of qualifying is his best of the season.
He did a good job in the braking area there. He made it turn, made the apex nicely, and again, you've got to be very committed at the second braking area. We've made reference to those bumps, and he uses every bit of road. In fact, he had the wheels in the gutter on the right-hand side. Bit of wheel spin, you can see the slide there, the body language of the car right out to the fence. And he's up by 0.13. That's a very, very good first sector. This is turn 5, big slide. Actually, nice neutral lock on that then. Not too much oversteer, it was sliding, but it slid all 4 wheels.
And that allowed him to have a nice run through 6 and 7 there. So the car was really beautifully positioned. So if he gets 8 right, which it looks like he has, his mid-sector speed here should be pretty good.
This important roller coaster braking area. And through the dip, you can apply more brake. Over the rise, you've got to take some brake away. Still up, 0.16. A little bit oversteery there on the exit. Steve Johnson at the bottom of the screen. Be very happy with his performance. Mum's quite stressed there looking on.
Riding every bump
exactly.
Too. So he's looking at a mid-129 if he can get this final sector right. Takes it right out to the wall. He got it, and he got a mid-129, and he goes to the top. And the Slade family
job, great lap. Thank you.
are loving it.
That's a great reaction, isn't it?
Puts him in the ultimate position. With Russell Ingall still to come, so too Rick Kelly and Will Davison, but the enforcer is up next after this break. the Sydney Telstra 500. Top 10 shootout. Tim Slade leads the way. And Russell Ingall is on track. Larko?
Yeah, Scafie, I said to you earlier there, everyone was on green tyres. Well, small amendment. Russell Ingall about to go out there now is the only guy that has put a used or roaded set of tyres on the front. Now, we talk a lot about it. There's a brand new waxy tyre. We talk about that wax. Very slippery, hard to get grip. Russell's got a set he qualified on. They look more like that, and they're cut in. You can see the texture in the tyre. He'll be able to generate heat and grip at the front of the car earlier in the lap. Watch for his first segment.
Yeah, good point, Larko, and that sometimes for risk management will start the lap better because of that roaded nature of the tyre. So the braking areas we said are very important, and as Ingall approaches now turn 2, he actually ran too far over the left-hand curve at turn 2, then he had the loaded wheel upset, didn't ride over it very nicely at all, and there is a 0.5 deficit at the first sector, so not happy with that from his perspective. A little bit wriggly in the braking area for 6, rides the curve nicely at 7, and bang, mirror gone, rubs the fence on the way out, up to turn 8.
The mirror's no big deal, but I actually think the right rear guard got it as well, and that's going to be costly for time. So 0.4 down. The second timing intermediates in the braking area here for turn 9. We'll get another read on it now, so it's gone to half a second out. Last pole position, Russell Ingall. Winton, 2001. A few sleeps in between.
Only one.
Yeah, it's the only one. Yeah, last one. The one.
Since the start of his career, he's done more than 500 races, gone straight into the wall. That was heavier and may send him back in there on turn 13, but he just avoided it. So an eventful lap for Russell Ingall.
Again, that's got a P5 at the moment, P5 at the moment.
So the first rub of the wall, you could have probably cut the damage out with some nice cut and polish. The second rub of the wall, you actually have to change the right rear guard, I'd say. I think Russell's on the line. You got us there, Rusty?
Should have gone for those other rears.
He's on the phone to Robbie at the moment. Hey, Russell, it's Neil. Can you hear us?
Yeah, got it, mate.
Tell us the story. We saw you rub the right rear on the wall there a couple of times. Tell us about the lap.
A couple of times, mate. I think I copped every single goddamn wall in this joint. Just a wrong tyre selection, mate.
Yeah, I heard you make
that. Set of better we should have probably gone with, but
yeah, I heard you make that remark.
Anything in single digits for a qualifying is okay for me. So the race is easy. This qualifying bit's a hard one.
Well done, mate. You're 5th right now. See you at race time. Russell Ingall.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
See you, mate. Which would be some kind of record too if you have hit every concrete barrier, because how many did you put around here when you designed this? Like 2,000 odd? Rick Kelly.
What's going on? This is stopped.
Rick Kelly is meant to be the next man out, the second last man out. And while we're having a chat to Russell, Rick is having trouble.
That's the end of Olympic Boulevard, and that is effectively turn 3 in the chicane. So he's obviously had some car drama on the warm-up lap and has parked the Jack Daniels Commodore in the runoff area at the end of Olympic Boulevard. So very weird.
In that conversation with Russell.
Okay, we need 6 at pit lane, young Jason. We've got 6 at pit lane.
So voice of Tim Schenken, the race director. So talking about bringing the next car up in the queue. There he is, Will Davison. We intercepted the back end of the message where Russell was talking to Robbie about we just went the wrong way. Yeah. I was going to say after Larko, he's saying that's all fine and dandy, but nearly every time you see it done, unless you get it absolutely right, you end up with an upset balance on the car, and that was what Russell was saying, that mixing and matching, as we look at the replay here of whatever's gone wrong with Rick's car, mixing and matching tyre sets can have implications in the balance of the car. 100%
Croppo, and what you're better off to do with that is risk management. If everyone else is on a green tyre, line yourself up with a green tyre and you won't be as badly off.
Yeah, I was speaking to his engineer though, Scafie, and they said Russell has had a drama trying to get his fronts cut in, get them up to temp, so they went for that strategy. And you're right though, as Russell said, he would have been happy to have a rotor set on the rear of the car as well for the sake of matching.
Larko, I've argued with Robbie about 100 times over tyre choice, so I'm not an expert really to comment on that.
As lost oil pressure is the story for Rick Kelly.
Oil pressure gone on Rick Kelly's car 15. Okay, so Tim Slade currently sits on the top at 129.55.
And in that instance, you get the low pressure warning on the digital dash of the car, engine off. So every passing second with no oil pressure could potentially do enormous damage to these very expensive engines. So the best thing to do when you see the alarm is flick it off, get it off the racetrack.
Slade is on the cusp of his first ever pole position. This guy is on the cusp of a 20 grand start to this weekend. If he can get pole here, he will put it beyond doubt that his mate Jamie Whincup can catch him for the season. And it's a $20,000 bonus. In terms of the overall Armour All Pole Position Award winner, it would be the 9th of the year for Will Davison.
And he said to me earlier, watch me and see what decision I make in terms of whether I use second or first gear when I'm dealing with these tight corners in and around the train station, because he said in the wet I just kind of did whatever I had to randomly do to get the job done. So he said I'm not really sure how I'm going to treat it in the dry, so just it could be good or it could be bad. Keep an eye on it.
Did you see the Tim Slade reaction to Mum then? Mum's come up and give Tim a little kiss to say well done, and Tim's done the get away Mum, I'm serious.
Now, Mum.
Yeah, it's not the right time, Mum. I'm just about to get my first pole position.
Righto. So he's going out a little bit earlier than expected, Will Davison, because Rick Kelly didn't get to complete his lap, didn't get to start it, in fact. So is this the one that gives Will Davison $20,000 guaranteed?
Look good. And the fastest car so far in the speed trap on the run down to turn 1, 239 kilometres an hour. It's not peak speed. It's very dependent on where the trap is, but quicker than anybody else.
Let's not forget that Will locked out position 1 on the grid for both days last year. Back-to-back poles and 0.15 up at the first sector. That'll make Slade nervous.
Car looks very good. Mid-corner grip is fantastic.
Soaking up the bumps beautifully. Body not being upset as it flew across the curb. This is 8. Oh, hooked a lot of it, then actually got a lot of air, a lot of grip. And down into turn 9 now, second intermediate. We'll see what this translates like. There it is, so nearly half a second up. So from here on in, and he'll see these indications on the dash, it's just going to be a question of trying to carefully manage. Little bump of the wall. Looked like he actually got it then, didn't it?
Almost in the fence.
That's hurt him. Yeah. That's a big time loss there. That's a massive time loss. This puts Slade back in the game with 1 to run.
Well, let's see how much it cost him. He gets the fence as well, and he goes to second. He misses out on 20 grand. Slade gets his first ever career pole position. And they celebrate like they've won the lottery down there at Lucky 7.
That is fantastic. Well done, Tim Slade, and to all the guys at Stone Brothers. Fantastic.
Tim Slade, what a moment. He's in the centre of celebrations with the team, but first pole position, Tim Slade, congratulations. Well done, mate.
Oh, thanks, Brett. Yeah, I mean, it's just a credit to all my Lucky 7 guys, and that's awesome. I mean, you've caught me right in the moment, so really don't know what to say. It's you know, I've been in this sport for a few years now and haven't managed to get a race win or a pole position, so that's awesome.
It has been coming though, hasn't it? I mean, the year has been getting stronger and stronger.
Yeah, for sure. This year's been really solid for us. We're 6th in the championship and we're in reach of 5th, so that's a good way to start the race. But as we all know, it's going to be a long, hot, tough race to Savo, and you know, qualifying's great and it's awesome to have pole position on your resume, but yeah, we want to bring home a solid result to Savo.
Keep celebrating it. Well done, Tim.
Thanks.
Well done, Tim Slade. After more than 100 races in this championship, he will start from position 1 for the first time. Will Davison had it all there, but lost it in the final couple of turns. Stevie Johnson, Alex Premat will make up the second row of the grid. But today, pole position belongs to this man. The youngster from Lucky 7 Racing will get us underway from P1 later on this afternoon. Coming up after the break, we've got the Dunlop Series, plenty more here at the Sydney Telstra 500.